Hello everyone, it's Melinda, and today we're going to be looking at a very special collection of mine. I've titled it Salt Minerals, but it probably would have been more accurate to title it Evaporate Minerals. Not all of these minerals are salt, although some of them are. But for some reason my heart told me to call it Salt Minerals because all of these minerals are created when salt water evaporates, making them all evaporate minerals. So I guess that relation to salt water is what kind of spurred on the idea to call this video Salt Minerals, but we will be looking at halite, which is truly salt, and then gypsum, selenite, satin spar, and anhydrite, which are very much related minerals but are not salt. Alright, so the first mineral I want to talk about is halite because it is salt. It's commonly known as rock salt, and it is the natural mineral form of sodium chloride. It forms in isometric crystals. The mineral is typically colorless or white, but may also be light blue, dark blue, purple, pink, which I have some that we'll see in a moment. Also red, orange, yellow, or gray, depending on inclusion of other materials, impurities, and structural or isotopic abnormalities in the crystals. It commonly occurs with other evaporate deposit minerals, such as several of the sulfates, halides, and borates. The name halite is derived from the ancient Greek word for salt, which is hals. And Ontario is actually world-renowned for its salt mine, and this is something I had no idea about until I did the research for this video. The world's largest underground salt mine is the Sifto salt mine. It produces over 7 million tons of rock salt per year using the room and pillar mining method. It is located half a kilometer, totally mind-blowing, half a kilometer under Lake Huron in Ontario, Canada. Really cool. Totally cool. So the very first specimen I'll show you has a little story to go along with it. It's my big baby back here. I've said this in some of my other videos. I purchased some things from a rock and fossil shop that had purchased a museum collection. A museum that had closed sold their collection, but they didn't include labels. So these guys, tried their best to label things, but they weren't really knowledgeable in minerals. Not very much at all. So this big guy was labeled calcite, and I was still new at the time. I knew it wasn't calcite, but I wasn't quite sure what it was. I thought maybe it was I don't know, amblygonite or something bizarre. I had no idea. And then after the first year of having it, I noticed it was weeping. I don't know what the technical term is, but it was like not melting, but sweating, like sweating a salty water. So to me, I call that weeping. And I knew for sure that it was, a salty mineral at that point. And really, if you handle this specimen and you taste it, your fingers afterwards, they're super salty, intensely salty. So I would definitely think this is halite at this point. And certainly if you look up like clear halite specimens, you'll see very much this, and it's typical to be all blocky like that. It grows in that blocky formation. Pardon the knocking. I've hit my lamp. But yeah, what a beauty, and I didn't pay very much for it. So I'm quite pleased with it. It's a nice big clear halite specimen. Very pleased with that one. But then one of my prized beauties is this beautiful pink halite specimen. and it shows these absolutely mind-blowing hoppered crystals. So the formation is called hopper, like copper with an H. And you can use it as hoppered if you're using it to describe the formation. Isn't that just mind-blowingly beautiful? Incredible. Absolutely incredible. So what are some uses for halite? You won't be surprised to know that it is used in cooking as a flavor enhancer, of course. It's used to cure a wide variety of foods, especially bacon and fish. Halite is often used both residentially and municipally for managing ice, especially out here in Canada and especially in northern Ontario. So rock salt is occasionally also used in agriculture. An example of this would be inducing salt stress to suppress the growth of annual meadowgrass and turf production. Other examples involve exposing weeds to salt water to dehydrate and kill them, preventing them from affecting other plants. So, pretty much what you'd expect, especially if you're in a similar climate to myself. But isn't this just an incredible specimen? I'll show you the underneath. Neat. And this one weeps, or, you know, leeches, salty water, a lot. I actually keep it up on a pedestal, and that seems to prevent it from weeping or sweating or whatever, however you want to describe that. But yeah, there we go. Those are the two halite specimens that I have, and they are the only ones you'll see here that are truly salt. Alright, too cool, right? Okay, so the next one I'm going to introduce is gypsum, because selenite is a variety of gypsum, so and so is Satin Spar. So we'll start with gypsum as the basic introduction to the group. Got a big white chunk of gypsum, very solid, not much, you know, texture. So neat still though. So gypsum, like I said, is also an evaporate mineral, most commonly found in layered sedimentary deposits in association with halite, which we've just seen, anhydrite, which we will see, sulfur, calcite, and dolomite, a couple of which we will see soon as well. So gypsum is very similar to anhydrite. The chemical difference is that gypsum contains two waters and anhydrite is without water. So they are very, very similar in chemical makeup, but one has water and one does not. So the white here is the gypsum, and I have a hunk of just pure gypsum. So gypsum is the most common sulfate mineral. It is formed mainly by the evaporation of seawater. Like I said, that's something that many of these minerals have in common. All right. So let's jump into selenite next. And you may have been taught and sold specimens like this guy, and told that these were selenite. In fact, it's more accurate to call them Satin Spar, a different type of gypsum. I mean, I suppose these are, I guess, you know, attractive with their kind of cat's eye chatoyancy that's going on due to the way it's grown, and so I suppose selling them as selenite is appealing and cost effective, but they're not true selenite. So true selenite, like I said, is a variety of gypsum, but it is transparent and typically colorless. So I have some specimens that I collected here in Niagara Falls, Ontario. It was actually one large piece, but broke apart when I was extracting it from its home. So now it's in kind of like sliced off chunks. And it grows in that kind of sheet-like way, which is why it breaks so easily. But look how beautiful and translucent this is. You can see my fingers right through it as if it's a piece of glass. This is true selenite. This is real selenite here, not the Satin Spar. Oh, so gorgeous. So the name selenite is after the Greek word for the moon, Selene, the moon. And if selenite crystals show translucency, opacity, or any kind of color, it's caused by the presence of another mineral. They are typically colorless and clear. And I wanted to mention at this point that there are also Selenite Roses that I have not included here. I decided not to include them in this video because I had a lot of specimens to show, and I actually have already made a video on roses, on desert roses, Selenite Roses. So if you're interested in that, you can just check out that video and learn all about those. Gorgeous. It's so clear, like looking through glass. It's amazing. Super transparent. And you can kind of bend it. It almost reminds me of like thin plastic, the way it can be shaped. I'll show you some smaller pieces that have been bent. So gorgeous. It's my largest chunk. Oh, so beautiful. This is certainly not as common in Niagara as the Anhydrite and some of the other minerals, so I was really excited when I found this nice big chunk hidden inside. Oh, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And here's the smaller one I wanted to show you. See how it's thinner, so it's been kind of like warped. You can kind of bend it, and it has that feel of kind of, I don't know, sheets of like a clear plastic. So neat. And I have some smaller ones. And then this one I just absolutely love. You can see the selenite crystal growing out almost as if it's a flower out of that matrix right here. The little cubic looking crystals that you see around are dolomite. Isn't that adorable? I love that one. Okie dokie, so there's selenite, real selenite, the real deal. So next we'll look at Satin Spar, which is what you will typically see being sold as selenite in especially like metaphysical shops or on Amazon, all over the place, unfortunately. But now that you've watched this video, you know better. And you'll know the difference. Doesn't want to zoom in. Oh, okay, there we go. That's not so bad. There we go. This is the typical stuff that I'm sure you're used to. More of a pearly sheen, maybe very slightly translucent, but nothing compared to real selenite. Not even close. So this is very typical of what you'll see. And sometimes you'll get a chunk like this. Mine doesn't have it, but I have a lamp. And you'll see a nice chunk of perfectly clear material. That can certainly be considered selenite. However, the grand majority of this material is Satin Spar. still stunning and absolutely, you know, worthy of being collected, but not necessarily what it is being labeled. So again, Satin Spar is a variety of gypsum, just like selenite. It is silky, fibrous, and translucent, a pearly, milky kind of translucency. Definitely not completely clear. This is how you can easily tell them apart. Like I said, if it's smooth and clear, it's definitely selenite. Whereas if it's, you know, really fibrous like this and just kind of like a milky, slight translucency, then you're definitely looking at more of a Satin Spar. So the Satin Spar name can also be applied to fibrous calcite. You need to be, you know, a little bit aware of which one you're buying. I guess it's just good to know. So fibrous calcite can also be, like I said, considered Satin Spar. So it's recommended to, you know, label them if you're selling or, you know, handing off to a friend or something, to label them Satin Spar Gypsum or Satin Spar Calcite, just to help people differentiate, because they're very different types of minerals. They're not the same type of mineral. So it's just good to, you know, keep track of what we have. And then I have this large Satin Spar sphere, and at certain angles you can see through it nicely, and then in certain spots you can't. And there's some rainbows in the fractures. That's just a really interesting ball, and then you've got that cat's eye kind of chatoyancy going on there. Absolutely beautiful in sphere form. So gorgeous. I love it. I think it's so beautiful, and it's usually quite affordable. So it's nice if you're just starting out your collection to add a couple pieces of these in. If you're a little bit whimsical or witchy like me, then these Satin Spar, you know, specimens are also good for cleansing and charging your other crystals. I like to place mine on this little flat piece here. But if that's not your deal, then no worries. Oh, isn't that neat? Just love it. All right. And lastly would be the Anhydrite. So, goodness gracious me. What does that look like? I'll start with my big one so you get a good sense of it. Here we go. Look at that. Isn't that neat? So, like I said at the beginning, anhydrite is also an evaporate mineral, and it occurs extensively in layered deposits in sedimentary basins where large volumes of seawater have been evaporated. So again, that's kind of why I went with salt, even though this is very much not salt. It is typically interbedded with halite, gypsum, and limestone, very much indicative of what I've got here in my collection, in accumulations that can be up to hundreds of feet thick. So really nice thick chunks can definitely occur. On a much smaller scale, anhydrite can form in shoreline or tidal flat sediments from the evaporation of seawater. Anhydrite also occurs as a vein-filling mineral in hydrothermal deposits. Really neat. So you can definitely see the difference. What an interesting texture, eh? Too cool. Here's some more. Sticking out of some limestone, dolostone. And then here's some selenite here, you can tell. Nice and smooth, very, very clear. And here we can see the kind of growth textures of the anhydrite. And that pearly shine. Isn't that neat? Too cool. This one also has those kind of growth, indications of growth, see? Really cool. And then here's this hunk of anhydrite, and it has this beautiful, perfect, clear selenite crystal sticking right out of it. Oh, I just love this. I love this one. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, so though anhydrite is similar to gypsum, the worldwide abundance of gypsum greatly exceeds the abundance of anhydrite. And anhydrite receives its name from the Greek anhydros, which means without water. Because remember, gypsum has 2 waters and anhydrite has no water. It readily converts to gypsum under humid conditions or in contact with groundwater. So when anhydrite gets wet, over time it will morph into gypsum. So they're very much related. On the other hand, if gypsum is heated to about 200 degrees Celsius, it will yield water and be converted to anhydrite. However, this reaction occurs much less often than the other way around. So cool. I just love that selenite crystal. Oops. All right. And the last few pieces I wanted to show you have selenite, as well as other things included on the kind of limestone matrix. So this one, oops, sorry selenite. So this one has flakes of clear selenite. You can see them. But it also has these yellow rhombs that sometimes kind of look almost cubic, calcite. And the pinky colors, the pinky squarish, rhombish kind of crystals are dolomite crystals. I just love the mashup of them all together. So pretty. I love the calcite crystals. Oh, that's a beauty, this one. I like that one. Gorgeous. So beautiful. This one has a similar mixture. You can see the little pink dolomite crystals. We can see the yellow calcite that we've got. And then here is the nice, clear, smooth selenite crystal sticking in there. Isn't that a beauty? You really have to smash these rocks up to find interesting things because they grow inside of these little bugs. Too cool. And the last one, lots of selenite in this one, and then again dolomite. If you're seeing any of that honeyish yellow calcite, there might be, although I don't see any. But yeah, it's like a window pane looking. It's actually flat here, and you can see through it these little cubes of dolomite that you can't touch because they're beneath that clear area of selenite. That's cool. I like that. Too neat, right? And all of the Niagara specimens, the really rough specimens that you're seeing here with the limestone, they are all from the Niagara Canal when they were building the hydroelectric station in the Canal of Niagara Falls. They removed a bunch of material and then threw it in Niagara, where we were able to collect for a while, but we unfortunately are no longer able to. Bummer, but I'm so glad to have what I do have. I love my specimens. Love, love, love them. All right. There we go, everyone. There are my, some of them are salt, some of them are related to salt water, but they're definitely all evaporate minerals. I hope you enjoyed that and maybe gained a new understanding of the difference between all of these gypsum and selenite and satin spar and all these different but also related minerals. Yeah. Alrighty guys, I hope I see you next time. Bye!